I'm having way too much fun horsing around with Jack Trimpey's ideas. Addictive voice recognition and butt-kicking training is way more learning by doing than imitating some teacher. I can't stop mouthing off about it before I've even taken his class. Your own twisted set of excuses to do drugs are similar in some respects to most addicts, but utterly unique to you in other deeply personal ways. You have used a variety of emotional stressors to argue from deep worry and pain, twisting your logic and action cortex towards chemical anesthesia, causing more worry and pain, treated with more drugs, your vicious circle. Start your recovery from all drugs and listen to your peers at classes in AA. You'll keep hearing, "Now I've got the mental, emotional, and physical capacity to live with, improve, and solve the damn problems my drugging worsened or even created." Every day is enough progress and joy to destroy the side voice, that sick voice that tells me to have a 3-hour party, never mind the 30 years of horror I'd invite. The more you experiment with challenging your addictive voice to debate, the more you'll recognize its crazy theme. Destroying myself is so helpful and inviting. Recall many times rushing at least 90% back to sanity by reminding yourself, "That dope trashed my every need and aspiration 1,000 times in a row." But then the beastie croons, "This time it'll be different." Suspect the lie, so get messed up and forget. But now, getting used to saying no, we regain the sense and time to actually listen to that boffo scuzzball and promptly take out its hilarious, smelly garbage, its head so far up the hiney you're fixin' to kick. Every one of 1,000 perverse ideas in formerly successful service of getting stoned may now be defeated by superior, cold, or even light-hearted logic. Poisoning myself helps nothing. It hurts everything. But before assuming that your each reason to drug is just another stupid lie to justify inebriation, look into motivations that included real worries and needs, several huge ones ever worsening with each short-term effort to temporarily hide or paper over the fear, if not the ongoing increasing threat. Then realize that the entire affliction of drug addiction is succumbing to an immediate gratification that will wreck your life tomorrow. 99% of recovering addicts' success is the initial and ongoing abstinence. Stopping 99% of that deep screaming for dopamine by removing the chemical trigger. This explodes our power to make true, not false, survival decisions such as stay off drugs and get your shit together. But adding those final weapons to add the 1% worse days that invite the evil back, that requires serious thought and regular strategy. Just what we're mulling over for several hours. Getting back to all of our drug-free, no-problem days, we still frown and say, "Boy, do I have other serious problems." What would a healthy plan of action be to reduce those threats? One I'm only capable of now that I'm not effed up. To my sobriety, I'll add strategery, not to mention diligent effort. Let's return to a topic that obsesses active addicts and also folks about to relapse. Your beast whines 100 ideas for using. Careful never to mention the resulting mounting body and brain toxicity. AA, RR, and every recovery student, keep that video running entitled The Rest of My Death After My Next Relapse as our number one debating answer to nail sobriety. Only we who remember our easily available Holocaust today live tomorrow. 2 minutes on that topic today is nearly your entire cure. Some of your beast's arguments are ingeniously reasonable. I'm bored, jaded, tired, stressed. I want to feel good, zesty, and delighted. Getting high would be a damn good quick fix. This siren song is temporarily true. So you must nail your best arguments against such tempting disaster masquerading as relief, of course. Then you better focus on a plan to feel better and have more fun as soon as possible. If not right this second with chemical intoxication's particular exhilaration. And get off suffering, unless suffering gets you off. Wah! Oh. While the 10-second or even 1-second debate, no! is the staple of a recovery's power and success. A several-minute exploration of drugging's pros and cons, lures and defenses against, is how you intensify, crystallize, compress, focus, personalize, and realize your every class's, work days, health measures, and relationships goal, which is turning your living well and avoiding disaster without drugs into 1,000% defense against the single worst of 1,000 sneaky beastie tricks in 1,000 days to feed you one more little dose. In each 3-minute debate, explore several dangerous lies and attack them with your most powerful truths. Look at your real concerns so badly mangled by drugging. Then plan some modest but regular baby steps for improvement of your tough circumstances causing rough emotions. No religious or professional therapist can explore and resolve your inner and outer conflicts. You must face your own history, present and future. Your music. Give all your choices equal voices, then make 'em. Should you take it from me, the wise, talented, medical pro and original recovery thinker? Check your bullshit alarm. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Because virtually every useful idea in these speeches was stolen from 1,000 recovering people's voiced discovery of their own sense, strength, beauty, and love. In a few days, or better yet tomorrow, it's time for another few minutes. You may like and use my little upcoming video on practical emotional meditation solving. For the next exercise, you'll bring up more gigantic lies, deep fears, and your beautiful truths to destroy both. Day by day, small session by self-discussion, you string more pearls on your necklace. You're capable building, ascending, loving heaven on earth. AA and rehabs also encourage your honest work on lies and truths, except they don't steadily push you to practice, to daily rehearse your old games, new answers debate, as if an imminent relapse awaited your green light or red light. Green light. Beast idea leaps unopposed from midbrain to cortex to muscles that grab and slam the drug. Red light. Think and stop, fool. AA and AA-based rehab mostly fail because they mostly neglect your real, internal, rational versus twisted instinct combatants. Instead, sending in God versus the devil to fight their proxy war for your behavior and soul. Sooner or later, your druggy dude remarks, "That morality play really doesn't impress me. And old Steve himself seldom takes his best shot to kick my nasty little tail. So while his head's in the clouds, I'm free to decide when it's party time." Recall your every relapse. Your addictive voice told your higher mind's every healthy, sensible, ethical, loving thought and voice to just dry up and shut up. Of course, you had seldom, if ever, practiced ornery resistance to such bullying, designing articulate defeat of your beast in unrelenting debate. So, leaving the field open to the sweet-talking lion bastard, you sleepwalked straight into that lion's mouth. AA says, bring God in to eject the devil, exorcise. Rational recovery and 90% of all winners against addiction say, I can build and practice my own divine human power to defeat my chemical and genetical saboteur with exercise. Some people do connect with God in detail, inspired by Him to achieve reverent happiness and wise, loving behavior. Many in AA credit their sobriety to God. These people are wonderfully gifted and giving. The most faithful say, I exist to serve God, and He directs my every thought and action. Even as I need not think and act for myself, He makes my life and sobriety turn out wonderfully well. While some of these servants relapse, many others head for a lifetime recovery. Many believe, as AA doctrine tells them, that powerless slaves to active addiction can only heal by becoming powerless servants of God's orders and directions. My opinion of their inspiration is beside the point. They have replaced chemical dependency with another equally obsessive dependency. On that one day in 1,000 when their God channel is only static, loss of their own unpracticed human power means relapse. Many, however, still avoid relapse because the 12 steps not only rely on God but also cultivate personal good behavior, peace, and growth, if not an excess of independent self-empowerment. And for some people, love of and from God inspires them to beautiful living in constant strength and serenity to refuse drugs. So deep religion works great for the deeply religious. They aren't likely to appreciate my evidence-based theme that too brief, too passive thinking causes most all relapses, and that cultivating your most powerful, assertive, eloquent intellect gives you every weapon, human and divine, to overmaster the instinctive, damaged, manipulative weakness or strength of addiction. AA and rehab seldom tell you to solve a terrible problem, stay right on it, because they have so many other reformist fish to fry. Try thinking for yourself. For example, My brain chemistry is so addictive that one drug dose forces thousands more at high speed. Wrecks my life. I will save my life and happily live it too, only as long as I never again take that first dose. This abstinence, my ability and purpose, proven by this first 3 days, 3 months, or 3 years, I've already courageously and successfully accomplished. Now maybe I'll learn or relearn 1,000 lovely lessons of psychology, morality, and spirituality. Or instead remain a tad selfish, a bit dumb, and not so holy as some recommend. Either way, their doctrines are not my bottom line, which remains no drugs, not once, ever. Then my share of love and happiness, so much I'll spread it around, is gonna grow and grow from my climbing abilities and efforts. Fueled by food, water, air, exercise, work, sleep, and not a bit of poison, with or without reliance on outside therapeutic authorities, I'll run like the well-oiled machine I am. Outside of church ideology, every victorious human struggle against every danger from all history was won by regular training and exercise of personal intelligence and strength against specific threats from either ferocious folly inside your own skull or from a myriad other human or environmental problems or menaces just as insidious, perplexing, and damaging, but just as solvable by active sanity. Whether or not some fallen angel with horns and a tail across the river Styx in Earth's molten core is pulling all those evil strings. And whether or not the God of love in your heart is also sending you orders for attitude and actions from Cloud 9 beyond the pearly gates. Decision into action is critical, and it ain't supernatural. So get with your regular training of intelligence, strength, and idiot proofing. Speaking of which, the beast voice of addiction begins with your deep, desperate, dopamine deficient drug demands, rushing from your midbrain id straight up to capture and manipulate your formerly wise, therapeutic, conscious thought and decision center, the cerebrum. As an active addict for thousands of hours, in my case 100,000, the monster twisted and dominating your reasoning talents to serve one sickening goal, to poison yourself. The monster twisted and dominated your reasoning talents to serve one sickening goal, to poison yourself. And former, but still potential addicts, even 20 years recovered from the actual chemical, can still experience a memory of that drug's intoxication that triggers a sudden savage ache for fulfillment, sparking evil arguments and demands from our immediately perverted choice center. Even 1 million fanatical AA veterans suddenly relapsed because they did not pay daily attention to the dangers that you and I are learning how to always beat down triumphantly for all our lives. Our final but necessarily ongoing cure is our practice to perfect, impregnable construction of even more powerful and compelling, wise, loving, and true arguments and self-guidance. Instantly targeted action to crush our drug fiends' every lie and entreaty. Simply start and finish each exercise by summoning and describing your hated past and your loving, happy, healthy future. Each will teach and save you now. You'll make both of your minds, instinctive and conscious, meet and agree to care for your life. And then your strong, sweet, steady love conquers all. Most standard recovery doctrine and philosophy swamps you with elaborate moral, spiritual, psychological, and behavioral advice. Wonderful! Surely now us angels will ever refuse more bad behavior. You think? So then why does the proverbial wagon ride ever lighter, littering the ditches with a gazillion despairing, dying dropouts? Because those legions of would-be healers and students don't keep our eye on the ball, which is how to recognize and defeat crazy thoughts urgently demanding drugs. I repeat, how to recognize and defeat crazy thoughts urgently demanding drugs. While your rehab finds, and meanders through the 100 strategies to make you perfect, your one essential lesson with homework and your permanent recovery and your life are usually lost. Beginning a binge is simply one, an immediate evil plan, and two, your failure to nip it in the bud with a good plan, life-knowing, life-saving thought and decision and action to refuse. Well, sure, but God, group, Bill Wilson, and my sponsor do all my thinking for me. With my prayer, obedience, and dependence, great authorities and spirits surely supply all the knowledge, strategy, and action to checkmate my enemy, especially since the invading devil of original sin and not my genetically, chemically twisted thoughts is to blame. Of course, I'm still wondering how my previous 4 years of sober recovery and another destructive, descending 6 years of relapse after that were all shattered by one mysterious, apparently irreversible brain fart. They tell me God abandoned me for slacking off on my praying, worshiping, and step work. I'm not criticizing, nor do I lack great admiration for the millions whose God lifts them to lifetime sobriety in return for absolute obedience to clear divine commands and guidance. But the rest of us afflicted, 20 times as many, need far more of our own human power. Addiction's basic relapse stimuli are your particular ideas to use. Addiction's proven solutions are your own powerful truths, capable of destroying those deadly using ideas right up to the point of no return, when the bad thoughts win and act, feeding you that first dose, renewing the generally unstoppable chemical high, then jonesing for the next chain reaction. A lot of folks offer you another hour of advice without spending 1 minute insisting that you lay out your worst, most alluring thoughts and trample them with your most fabulous, powerful truths. So others really know best, do they? But it is you who for years fell prey to every silly, scummy, but also fiendishly brilliant self-con to get wasted. And it is you who roused your most wise, loving, compelling, successful resistance to self-sabotage on many occasions, sometimes sustaining steady recovery for impressive periods. So your own arsenal and strategy of war against addiction, and to a fair degree relapse, has already been built and battle-tested. Now you must just expand, express, and direct your self-knowledge and communication to focus on every revealed danger, to transform your fits and starts into an entire heavenly lifetime. You're on the brink. Just specialize and mobilize. Recall my 10-round title fight between Frodo, determined to carry the ring of power to its grave unused, and Gollum slavering for its black magic murder of all love, freedom, and safety. Exactly as I reignited my villain versus my true mind and heart war for training purposes, so every great and victorious army regularly divides into two sides to game out mock battles. One battalion using force and strategy similar to the real enemy. Now, just what happens to the rest of us when suddenly drawn, unprepared, into a fight to the finish with a truly talented foe who knows us like a book? Well, somebody opens up a can of whoop-ass, and it ain't your better half. Kicking drugs ain't religion or therapy. It's combat. Not desperate, white-knuckle straining, but trained, focused, confident, loving, humorous, entertaining action. Recall and recreate your age-old war. Magnify, illuminate, and elaborate each skirmish again in writing or out loud. Your deep, evil, lying, starving beast versus your highest, most practical and loving mind and heart, soul and self. Discover that God is not just or only your far-removed, separate boss. You are also filled with him or her from birth, family, teachers, and friends. Realize that simply refusing any more poisoning rushes all your own good or God back into your thoughts and actions. Abstinence makes faith, intelligence, health, energy, focus, ethics, and purpose all into progress. Not just likely, but damn near certain. Your renewed power of active love is greater than doctrine or deity. That each actually exists to inspire and celebrate your leadership and rational, muscular action. So take charge. You demand. You go, girl. The passionately religious AA faithful believe their supernatural truths cause the effects of abstinence and recovery, just as they blame an evil spirit for damaging our bodies, minds, and behavior. And their many recoveries demonstrate their own power of belief. They don't get much farther, however, by evangelizing the less devout. For most of us, abstinence first, often inspired by rooms full of AA's original undoctrinated thinkers and strivers, and rededication to every kind of human love, including the spiritual, are our recovery's causes, and a beautiful new life if we keep trying the effect. Of course, human good and love are both mighty close to that God of love, n'est-ce pas? My spirited little play was strong in argument, but weak in personal history and ideal, healthy, goal-oriented future. Your greatest weapons against renewing your murderous past and cementing in future tragedy now. So write and perform your play to fully describe your drug-addled, compulsive hurting of yourself and all the dear people and endeavors the sober you would have loved instead. This subject's also perfect for Step 1 history and a primary topic for your 5-minute AA vignette you need to speak up with. Every meeting, if you can. So, your first act of your play is your putrid past when the beast kept winning. Write out each clever lure that snared you. Recall your resulting unmanageable descent to hell, now a drama you'll never forget. Now begin Act 2, when you have truly begun to consistently whip that devil. Recall every filthy trick that slime ball ever tried, crushing each with righteous, bombastic, sarcastic, scintillating savagery. But save your most majestic, ecstatic eloquence for Act 3, your heavenly future of permanent triumph and trump you will work to realize while never poisoning again. So, Steve, isn't most of that mind versus muck stuff covered in thorough 12-step work? Barely some. Yes, Step 1 mentions, but does not require a true history of your unmanageable obsession. Most steps work on better treatment of God or other people. Addiction's self-abuse and recovery's self-empowerment are virtually dismissed by self-effacement. So here's my idea. While plenty of piety is fine for you and all, you'd better pack every punch of brand new, regularly trained personal power into one great big 2,000-pound bomb and drop that bad boy square on your every next notion to relapse. By all means, write down your lifetime of sins, anger, and abuse against others and make amends. Your new glow of modesty and reform wonderfully diminishes drugging desire, by all reports. But don't leave out your critical wrecking of your own emotions, options, functioning in life, or the suffering and hopelessness you have determined to never tear you apart again. And someday, evil persuasion will still dance near, musical, voluptuous, and mesmerizing. Will you fall back on reverence and piety alone, hands empty of certain sharp weapons and practiced combat skills? Better hope the bullets miss, 'cause you ain't dodging 'em and you forgot the Kevlar vest. Trust me, you're in deep doo-doo. So make that little literary effort in advance. So when your relapse beast dangles its favorite lies, you won't freeze in passive silence and mindless, helpless assent. With Jack Trippy's addictive voice recognition training, my daily exercise, plus your own Shakespearean accomplishments, when bullshit beckons, you'll instantly bark with sardonic laughter, pick up clearly labeled grenades, pull the pins, and toss them into every stinky, beastie bunker. Recall my little tussle with the bad guy. You too will be choking with laughter. Exactly what most of the happiest, longest sober, least pontificating AA members are always bubbling over with. Usually about what a pathetic, silly punk baby that drug dolt used to make out of me, and how weak and smelly its garbage seems now. Continue to stop into AA. Barely 20% of its members' talks have a thing to do with my steps, sponsor, big book, and God keep me in line. Everyone else gravitates to precisely the personal power and love revelations that wipe the floor with our dethroned former tyrant, that my own common sense and yours enthuse over in our little chats. At the fellowship, obviously and audibly, serene or hilarious invulnerability is achieved way more often by new self-knowledge, past, present, and future, than by constant divine worship and reliance. The problem is, a lot of AA attendees are rather soon led to believe that they will fail in sobriety without a steady escalation in the depth of and dependence on heavenly communication. They don't achieve this, leave, and anticipate and achieve relapse. Too bad we were not honestly told. Millions recover at home without either deep religion or constant meetings. While we recommend sponsorship and the 12 steps, if you go out of meetings, you need not go out, period. Go out is AA vernacular for without us, you're gonna relapse. Tell us, despite our big book's pessimism, probably no human power to recover exists, a lot of our members testify to also helping themselves with great intelligence while actually mentioning less reliance on God's communications. So even if you cannot stay with one or all of our meetings, sponsors, step works, and service quartet, you can stay strong and sober with thinking you design, just as you hear most of us do. Now back to work to build up a repertoire of historical, present, and future interchange or detailed competition between your beast's schemes and your ascendant full humanity. You might protest. But Steve, a 1-hour stage play is not the weapon I need with a knife at my throat this second. Okay, I get your point. You need to grab that wrist, twist, and plunge. You need a really quick, savage fight ready. The 20-second or 2-minute version. Good. So what lie to justify relapse do you hear or recall this time? For example, you need a drug now to restore your spirit and joy. Like hell I do. 100 other ideas and actions could make me whole and entertain too, except your poison, which will again, as always, steal all my spirit and joy before killing me too. You go to hell. I'm heaven bound, but only without you, monster. Now, briefly summarize your horrific history of ruined efforts of self, family, and life abuse. Finally, take a picture or two. Your realistic dreams with competent daily ascension, the heaven on earth you're now building for you and your loves without ever touching, much less now, another single dose of sickness, weakness, stupidity, loss, and despair. So how does one build a good, productive life? Education. Overcoming ignorance. Knowledge is power. The truth shall set you free. But I already have such a big library book. Or 2. Yes, you do. AA's Big Book and Christianity's Bible are both indispensable to millions. but all of 5% of AA's beginners remain after 3 years. 70% of Rational Recovery readers who adopt its big plan to never drink and drug again and take the addictive voice recognition training class report multiple years of abstinence without relapse. Many after blowing a fortune on standard psych and faith rehabs. So at least advance your education with a few more books. Your permanent daily thought power. Great idea dominance over bad. Defeating relapse in advance will not happen without a few minutes of bedtime reading. Rational Recovery and the Small Book by Jack Trimpey. A 12-step recovery guide. A non-12-step recovery guide. Addictive Thinking by Dr. Tversky. Parkinson's Chemical Dependency Counseling Textbook. Gorski's Passages Through Recovery and Gorski's Staying Sober. And by all means, decide if you wish to practice the AA doctrine and faith millions successfully swear by. Accept no one's assurance that genetic addiction has only a secular or only a religious cure. Though massive proof exists that religious zealots sternly underrate or often dismiss the power and success of basically rational, self-empowering, determinedly permanent abstinence. We genetic addicts can never close our neuron superhighway from permanent, never dormant or gone, always reuniting on occasion, deep desire, driving straight up at 75 miles an hour to potential recapture and reperversion of our thinking, choosing cerebrum, to signal our nerves and muscles to pound the poison. Our sabotaged brains' mutiny and treason, generally, eventually, irresistible, without installing and maintaining those brilliant, powerful new circuit breakers you and I keep discussing, designing, and practicing. Whether recovered for 20 days or 20 years, your instincts and conscious but weakened judgment and decision center will still scream, "Get me dopamine! Get me dope!" For the next minute, hour, or day, your entire brain and spirit can again spout dangerous, plausible lies. Decades of spiritual passion alone cannot protect or even interest everyone on that fateful day. Old lies are again for sale, boosted by titanic bursts of desire in remembrance of achingly real, if chemical, joy. Now your desperate druggy dream is no longer right or wrong, just better than sex or rock and roll. If you have long since stopped preparing to counter toxic messages and cravings you complacently assume to be dead and gone, preparing not just with God's shield, but also your own practiced armory of sobriety arguments. If you no longer daily review how crazy, deadly, and defeatable are relapses in treaties, if you have stopped succinctly, but in sufficient scope, describing in thought and speech, even writing, your greatest needs, reasons, and strategies for keeping your real joy, your finest life, your strongest, sweetest love, and your very only, very sober chance to survive and thrive, it will be too late to beg, "Dear Lord, think for me, protect me, rescue me." Though you pray to and worship him still, he cannot save a mind that has abandoned his greatest gift, your loving, active destructive human reasoning, judgment, and choice that you must daily exercise. AA's arduous doctrine, especially with its members' human cultivation, has worked for millions. Rational Recovery's simple straight line from temptation to resistance for thousands. And my daily exercise has helped me. Until this puppy goes viral, that is. Of course, my notions seem a tad less solitary if you remember Jack Trimpey's research into history's recovery record. Personal power and responsibility to renew daily love of self, family, and God defeated addictions for thousands of years before Bill W. instructed God to take over for you. AA's many stories of their veterans relapsing, often finally and fatally, always come with the moral. Meetings, prayer, sponsorship, step work, and service must all flow along forever without a break, but also with ever-refreshed emotional involvement, with the full panoply of doctrine, inspiration, belief, and action. Well, there are a million happy reasons to believe these reports and lessons. Passionate adherence to a doctrine of spiritual, ethical, and behavioral beauty that you believe keeps you well often will. If that's you, great. But you're probably the only one on your block. I continue to stop in at Alcoholics Anonymous. Nobody jumps on me for declining to subsume my personal power and priorities to selflessness and God, because democratic tolerance counts most with the vast majority of these delightful people. Although when they know I'm listening, several speakers often provide gentle warnings against overthinking. I interpret and use the 12 steps as best I can without punting to God's overwhelming authority, and always treasure members' testimony with its wise, versatile, powerful, everyday wellness strategies, most magical and miraculous for each person's unique design that almost always applies to me too. I just happen to believe that my rational home brain work finishes off my relapse potential, as God and AA cannot either be left 100% in charge. While a victorious million summon God's orders, many millions find success by building up and loving their highest selves and others. And I think everyone who stays clean rehearses the psychological, reasonable, biological inner needs conflicts, continuing to boost their healthy, functional intelligence for kindness to others and self. Just as I insist on regular exercise at home for lifetime abstinence with zero relapse, people who keep going to AA often beat bad odds and keep on recovering, especially those who keep their own ideas fresh and don't just parrot the party line. What? Say your prayers, work your steps, what? But you'll need to speak out at every meeting you can about defeating your inner saboteur. While AA's successes with even the less than devout continue to multiply around the world, in view of AA's and rehab's pretty bad batting averages, I invite you to join me in a study of ridiculously simple, brief, but daily recovery strategy. All we commit to is the plan to find a few minutes each day to recall several deadly persuasions snuck in by our irrepressible doping instigator, and our glorious power to freeze all temptation with our smartest, best, strongest, happiest moments. plus a sharp description of relapse's chain reaction to final disaster. You'll develop the daily habit of encouraging those minutes answering your lowest lurid lures with the highest truths from your history, your new sobriety, and your future without addiction, each so perfect and critical to vanquishing relapse this day, this hour, and this minute. Debate your future, wiping out that so easily messed up tragic fate with your glorious rise continuing sobriety. Vary your recall of history, your various lies and lessons to remember all your drug-induced setbacks, thus building all your weapons for fending off relapse. Sometimes think of your highest needs, dreams, and goals. Feel your joy, arrival, and fulfillment. Care to rip up your pending heaven forever with one stinking little party? You don't think so? My speeches end with a review of each major arena your strongest thoughts for the day might happen in. Work, health, help, love, and debate. With that beastie, of course. Can any of us ever relapse, regardless of rehab or religion by the ton or none, if we are always practiced internally and uniquely in our destruction of every conceivable threat and actual verbal construction of all our fabulous sober gifts, advantages, abilities, and joys? I don't think so, and neither do you.